Welcome back to the Spewak Training Podcast. This is our fourth episode. We are rolling with lots of great guests, being able to interview our coaches and their athletes with the success stories that have, I think, really inspired so many people, in our community so far, hearing them. It's been amazing just thinking about episodes 1, 2, and 3. The first one, if you want to go back and listen with Nicole Shepers and Dan Staples, we really dive into the success of Nicole's running, but then also the charitable component that came with her running, which is really cool. She's been able to raise $100,000 for St. Jude's, and that's been through her running and the fundraising. In the second episode, we got the chance to interview Tim O, his Boston journey and working with Coach Julia, just his passion for the sport and everything. And then in the third episode, we're diving in with myself and Krista Owings, where we share, being stroke survivors and the inspiration, kind of with our journey and the connection now that I'm actually coaching Krista. So thanks for listening to those episodes. But yeah, with the fourth episode today, we are working with Emily Shor, who's been just an amazing client of ours. She's been so positive and just such a hard worker. She's with Coach Donahue, and they've just been the perfect match from day one. They've just clicked so well, and it's been so cool to see them succeed together. Emily's story is inspiring because she was somebody who, reached out to us with a little hesitation of, was she qualified enough to be, somebody that could be coached, and has gone on to, put herself out there, get better, get faster. She's had setbacks, but she's overcome them, and then came back this past fall and had a huge success story that she'll share about. So looking forward to diving into this episode with Coach Kaitlyn Donahue and Emily Shor. Welcome back to the Spewak Training Podcast. This is episode number 4. I can't believe that we are already on to the 4th episode, and this has been so much fun just releasing these different interviews with our athletes and our coaches. And today we are with Emily Shor and Coach Kaitlyn Donahue. Both are just outstanding humans and just great parts of our Spewak Training program. But Emily, Kaitlyn, how are you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good.
Now, for both of you, is this first podcast ever?
Sure is, yeah.
Yes.
I love it. That's been the really fun part about this, is that there's so many great stories that have come out of Spewak Training, and a lot of stories where, people maybe have never shared it, in a podcast form or, in a story. But I think they're all very newsworthy, and they're going to inspire people, because ultimately at the end of the day, the stories that are most inspiring for people wanting to get better are seeing people who've been successful, right? And have been in our shoes. And sometimes we see people on social media and things like that, and it's inspiring, but it's kind of far away from us. But when you find out that there is this badass runner named Emily in our town, who had the same goals and aspirations as maybe you do, but you just haven't pulled the trigger yet on coaching and things like that, her story can help motivate you. And I'll never forget the email I got back from Emily, almost 2 years ago, looking for a running coach, and, being a little hesitant, whether you would fit in or not, based on the pace that you ran. And for us, we just always want to get across to people is we don't care how fast you run. Our goal is to help you. And if your goal is to get better, from a speed perspective, or you're trying to hit a distance goal, whatever that is, we want to meet that for you. But just thinking back now, Emily, your goal was get faster, and you've accomplished that. How has this kind of journey been?
It's been amazing. Kaitlyn's been really supportive in hitting those faster paces, but not only just getting faster, doing so safely. Because that was a big thing for me is, I'll watch people online get faster, and then 2 months later, they're out with an injury for a prolonged period of time. And, wanted to make sure that I found a coach that was balancing the safety of running, but also for my schedule. At that point, when I had reached out to you too, my work-life balance wasn't the best at the time. So I needed someone that was going to be flexible if I did miss a run because my work hours ran late or that sort of thing. So Kaitlyn's been the best of both worlds there.
Was it a nerve-wracking experience, would you say, reaching out for a coach?
Terrifying, yeah. Because from one standpoint, it's I don't want to be judged because I'm kind of on the slower end, at least in my head coming in. And so it was a moment of being a little more vulnerable and figuring out if this is something that I could even pursue. Because coach sounds very official. You think of the Olympics on right now, you're oh yeah, they have coaches. not for someone that was like, this is kind of more a recreational thing for me.
Well, and what's so cool about it is that you found a match in Kaitlyn who couldn't be the opposite of somebody, you know, that you might be afraid of.
Right.
You know, she's the ultimate cheerleader, just so excited to help people improve. So, Emily, obviously, you know, you've accomplished the goal of getting faster. We know, like, obviously, Coach Kaitlyn has shared so much with me, and then I also follow you on Strava and get the good fortune of seeing you at many local road races. But you're faster now and you're quicker. But I know that it's been a journey. So you did the Chicago Marathon and then had a setback. Could you share a little bit more about that experience? You know, because you went from, okay, succeeding, getting faster, and then boom, here's an injury. And it kind of changes and alters the way you're probably going to think about your training.
Yeah, so did Chicago. That was awesome. Fabulous experience. About a year, like now, that's when I found out that I had stress fracture, started having ankle pain, and got that checked out. And they're like, you're off of it for at least 6 weeks, basically. And that was nerve wracking in the moment, right? Because I was like, well, you know, I've been doing all the right things, but, you know, as the doctor said, they're like, this just happens, unfortunately, even when you're doing all the right things. And like, I wasn't trying to overexert myself or anything by that means. But Kaitlyn was great during that process in terms of, you know, making sure I'm cross training, finding ways that, you know, I can still maintain my level of athleticism without, you know, going downhill basically over those 6 to 8 weeks. And then really just picking back up. And I know when I picked back up and was able to start running, I was really nervous. I was like, what if this is all just going to happen again? Right. And so taking it kind of slow, Kaitlyn, you know, started me off at walk run paces and then built up gradually as I felt comfortable. And, you know, throughout that training period, because that led up to the New York City Marathon, that was a little more nerve-wracking because, again, I was like, well, at least that injury that time happened after the big race, right? I'd hate to be in the midst of like peak training in the middle of summer and then hit another injury. And so I probably was a little more timid in terms of like pushing my paces because I wanted to make sure that at least, if nothing else, made it to New York. But Kaitlyn was great in terms of being supportive and getting me to that point. And again, even though I had that injury and that level of setback, I was actually able to PR my marathon on a much hillier course in New York City. So that was amazing to be able to really accomplish that.
Yes, and you did incredible.
Thanks.
We're so proud of you.
It's cliche because, like, you know, we think about setbacks and, you know, we always say, like, you know, a setback is a setup for a comeback, but it's so much about your mindset and how you approach it. And one piece is having a supportive coach, you know, obviously to get you through it. But at the end of the day, it's, you have to make that decision every day to choose to cross train, you know, to choose to improve on other things that are outside of just running in itself. And it can be a really hard, kind of lonely, you know, spot to be in. And I would say that, you know, you maybe can attest to this, but sometimes you put in that work with cross training and all the rest of those things. And then when you get back to training, it's easier because you're like, man, I went through the harder stuff, you know, when I was injured. And then there's just this sense of gratitude of being healthy. Did that play into New York for you? Like in that training cycle, did you find just more gratitude for the process?
For sure. Even like after New York and being able to run, I was telling a friend just the other day that like a year ago I was in a boot, not being able to run, and there's just a lot more gratitude to be on the roads now and even at a faster pace than I was at, you know, training for New York. So it's been really, you know, satisfying basically to see that progress and know that I've had that, you know, hindrance basically to make sure that, you know, I can keep going and achieve even more goals as the years come on.
That's amazing. It's so inspiring. Talk to me about New York, because that's got to be like, you know, regardless of how you finish that race and what your time is, I mean, the experience itself has to far trump that, correct?
Oh, the crowds were crazy. I felt like I was just being carried by the crowds through the race. And just the other runners, no matter if you were fast or slow, everyone, you know, it's a runner's community. And that's what I think I love about runners is you meet someone on the street and you find out that they're a runner. And there's already that connection there, regardless of what pace groups you would have ended up in. And that was clearly apparent at the New York City Marathon. There were people that, you know, at the end were front of the pack runners that were sticking around for the back of the pack runners, making sure that that experience was the same for everyone that crossed that finish line. And really just knowing the support of complete strangers there really helps carry anyone through, even if you're having like a rough mile or something like that, you're like, these people have been standing out here all day long just to cheer for me. I got to get through that finish line at this point.
Can you remember going through Central Park?
Barely. That was painful. But I remember the crowds. I also remember thinking, I'm so glad that I know this is like towards the end, because my legs were, at their finish line in and of themselves. And that's also the time where you see a lot of people not feeling great. And so I'm just like, I want to help them. But I also like, if I see one more person, have issues, I'm like, I don't want to be in that boat, basically.
That makes total sense. It's a hard place to be at in a marathon when you're towards the end, but it's so cool that there is that, the included part of Central Park and the spirit of New York City there, and those crowds. I mean, it's something that you're probably going to remember forever. And it was probably one of the first days, right? You felt like a pro in some ways, right? Like felt that connection, like all these people, 1 million fans are cheering for you.
Exactly. It was a whole different world, because local races, even there are people cheering for you, but there aren't millions of people standing on the sidelines like New York or Chicago that are cheering you on. So just having those huge crowds, while it's intimidating too, because they're like, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself or what have you amongst these strangers. It's really great to know that like they're here to cheer the first person, the last person, and everyone in between.
Yeah, and Kaitlyn, obviously you have that experience for running Chicago, kind of knowing those crowds and everything. Did it feel just so great to be able to see Emily be able to have an experience like you've had, like in the Chicago marathons, because, she is out there doing so many miles, by herself, in the cold. I've seen her in Forest Park on some really chilly days. I mean, you probably, knowing that experience, that probably made you feel really good.
Yeah, I was so happy for her, and knowing that she was able to get to the finish line healthy was just huge. After the training block that we had and all the hard work she put in on the Peloton, on the bike, there were so many hours that she put in. Yes. Yeah. So it was awesome. I was so happy for her. And even to PR on such a tough course too, that's incredible.
Yeah. Kaitlyn and I, we brag on you a ton, Emily, just because, she's so impressed, and I am too, just by the resilience and piece of it. And I think that's the thing, is that this sport is, can be really great and gratifying when it's going really well. But when you do have a setback and things happen, it can be so difficult and it can be so lonely. And I know Kaitlyn was kind of sharing with me that you just became a machine with cross training, your diligence to that. And that's huge, because a lot of runners don't want to do those things like cross training and strength training and all the additional things that are going to make you successful. So just kudos to you for just having that attitude and resiliency. And that's probably why you were able to, muster up that PR, in New York in a hilly course. I mean, you just have that, that dog in you, the fight in you, which is fun.
Yeah, it was coming close, 'cause towards the end, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to hit it. And then I was like, no, I got to hit it. After everything that I've, gone through this year, I just kicked it up a notch towards that last couple of miles, because I was like, it's literally that close. So it would have been seconds, and we made it.
It's incredible.
And this is probably a hard question to answer, but it's been 2 years, and 2 years is funny, because 2 years is short and very long at the same time, because we experience so much. And then we just talking about, your past with running. I mean, there's so much that we can brag about in the 2 years of running together. But as you reflect, do you think that you've almost achieved more, or, in some senses, than you thought when you reached out initially?
So yeah, I think when I reached out initially, I wasn't sure that I was going to do more than one more marathon. And then that Chicago marathon went so well with Kaitlyn that I was like, I'll put my name into the lottery with New York. And now I'm signed up for Chicago again this fall. So, it kind of got me hooked to see that I could do it in feeling so well while doing it. Because my first training block on my own my very first Chicago, that was rough. And there were a lot of different factors that went into it, but it was pre-coach time. And then I got connected with you guys and a coach, and it not only helped with having a better structure to my plans, but also that accountability piece of, I've got someone on the end looking out for me, cheering me on, not that you would have, been, giving me the feeling that I was letting you down or anything, Kaitlyn, but on the other side of me, I was like, no, if someone's watching me, I want to do well. And that's just kind of my personality to make sure that, I'm reaching my own goals, but I also want to support the people that are supporting me at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and Kaitlyn can test that so much. It's like she couldn't be prouder of you, and more excited for you. And the feeling of disappointment is, so far away from, I think, anything she's thinking.
Yeah, I've never had the feeling of disappointment with you.
Appreciate that.
I don't think I could. Yes, no.
But those are the best athletes to coach because, I think when somebody thinks that they're being a disappointment, that's usually when they're not a disappointment. It's usually the opposite. Somebody that thinks that they're, there's no way I could ever, I know Emily does things to the T, and she's willing to go above and beyond to get her training in to be successful. And you're managing it with the work-life balance too. And I think that's a piece that doesn't get celebrated enough because, okay, it's one thing, Emily, that you've run PRs, you've gotten better. And that's you put that on a billboard for Spewak Training. That really helps us. But I would say one of the most important things, and Kaitlyn and I in our group always talks about this, is that we want people to be able to experience the sport for a very long time because there's going to be a time where PRs are over, but you're probably still going to run. If you can still do it and you're healthy enough to do it, you're going to be so excited that you could just go for a 3 or 4 mile run. And the last thing we ever want to do is do so much with somebody that they maybe get hurt and there's an issue for it for a long time, or the opposite, they just burn out, and that's what's so cool. You've found, I feel like, a really good balance between pushing yourself for these races, but from my perspective, you look generally happy to have this a part of your life.
Yes, I love it. I love having, Kaitlyn almost taking away the planning part of it to a sense, because she just looks, this went well or this didn't go well, and structure the next week's plan. So it makes it easier for me from my work and life to not have that particular, start Googling different training plans and trying to figure out what to do. Having her expertise right there, an email away basically. And then being able to integrate that into my day-to-day plans. And, whether that means I'm on vacation and I tell Kaitlyn, hey, I'm not going to be able to run these particular days, or I've got, big work projects that I know I'm going to be staying late for, so I don't know that I'm going to be able to fit in that run. She's been great in accommodating that for me too.
No, that's amazing. And for you, Kaitlyn, this because Kaitlyn obviously works with me. I'm coaching Kaitlyn for these last several years, and I'm sure there's a level of excitement right on those Sundays to get that email and take that pressure off. Isn't it cool to think that you're doing that for somebody?
Yes. And I love that. And I will say Emily is one of the diamonds in the rough that will give me a heads up when she's going out of town or when she has a schedule change. So that's super helpful.
She's planning ahead. She's gets
planning
it.
Around.
She knows.
Yeah, she got it.
Well, in the process of those Sunday emails, and that's our goal, is that you read that, each week, and that you feel a sense of excitement for that following week. And I was telling somebody this the other day, I think what's so fun about run coaching and about the running groups and things like that is that you can find joy in the middle of February. Right now the weather's obviously pretty nice, but a couple weeks ago it was really cold and there's not a lot to look forward to. But when you have a plan, you have structure, it's that piece that might get you might have gotten you out the bed that day to go run, and when you might not have done that, if you didn't have that accountability. And so that's such a bit. But at the end of the day, passion's everything. And you can clearly tell that with Emily, that she's passionate about the sport. She's passionate about the process. And that's where you find success. And I think you're such an inspiration, Emily, because you're continuing to challenge yourself from cycle to cycle. You're saying, okay, you were brave enough to say, hey, can I do this? Am I qualified enough to have a coach? You immerse yourself in the process. You've gotten faster. You've overcome the setbacks. And now you're just looking to improve more, which is so cool. This is kind of a weird, question to ask a runner, but where do you want to be in 5 years with the sport, would you say?
Ooh, that's hard to say. Hopefully still running, first and foremost. I kind of have this soft goal of, because I do like to travel, of running a half marathon or a 10K or some sort of race in every state as I go travel. So it'd be cool to see some more states checked off from that perspective. But the biggest thing is that I still had that love for running and still having the support system, whether that's Kaitlyn in 5 years or really learning from her and being able to figure out an appropriate plan on my own at that point, just kind of depending on what I'm training for or that sort of thing. I hope that, running's still a big part of my life, basically. No,
I love that. And that's the most important thing, is that you're driven by the fact that you like running, not just, I have to do all these goals and then, I'm never doing this again. That's got to be a positive thing to hear, Kaitlyn, right?
Yes, it is, for sure.
because that's the piece of it when we're assigning training to athletes, is that, we're always, I would say, trying to find that line between motivate you, challenge you each week, but not also like make this like a dictatorship or something where you feel like you've just signed your soul away and you're because you have other things that you're interested in, beyond the sport, which is so great. Well, yeah, you've been a huge inspiration, Emily. It's been so much fun following your journey and just seeing the collaboration between you and Kaitlyn. I think that's half the battle for us, is just making sure that somebody has the right fit, because encouragement and positivity at the end of the day is so important. And it's cliche, but like, you need somebody in your corner and to keep you going, because I'm sure there were a lot of days when you were hurt or when you've been sick and things like that. Just hearing somebody that says something, the words that you need to hear that you're not telling yourself sometimes.
Totally agree.
It's a hard piece, right, Kaitlyn?
Yeah.
The positivity versus what we say, inner dialogue for ourselves versus how we talk to others.
Yes, for sure. Inner dialogue can always be negative, or it can be positive. So definitely very proud of you for staying positive and keeping up with all the training before and after the injury. And you just see how far you've come. It's amazing. It's awesome.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you.
Oh, thanks.
Well, thanks for reliving the success of the last 2 years. It's been a blast, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 years of Emily's running, and then the next 50 of them. We're going to see her at every local race. Emily's going to be at the Frostbite Series with me. They'll both have the walkers and everything, and we'll challenge each other in the 5K. So it's the battle of
let's do it.
It's the battle of passion, Emily.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's the best part about the Track Club Frostbite Series, is just seeing like people out there of all ages and abilities. Like, that just inspires me so much, and that's got to feel so cool to, like, when you're there and a part of that process. And there was one day, I have to say, that was a fun story, is I think, was it last year, Emily was supposed to do a Frostbite, and then it got canceled, and she went ahead and did it on her own in Forest Park.
Yep, I sure did.
Yeah.
That was epic. That was really epic, which racing by yourself is a very difficult thing. And I think we saw you.
I think she even got a PR that day too.
Yeah.
I think that's, it's just like, you're by yourself. You would have done amazing. Like, imagine what you would have done with the crowd.
Yes.
Yeah. Because our group was out there running that day, and I think we ran into you like in the middle of it. I think it was the 3K course, and
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah, you were like in the middle of it, and I was like, because it was early on, not knowing you, like because like we knew you, but we'd never seen you in person, and I was like, is that Emily? Is that not Emily? But you were like in the zone, so there was no way that we were going to be able to introduce ourselves at that moment.
I'm actually, Mark, it's not you, it's me. I
will say, I've seen Emily out running, and I've like run behind her going, Emily, trying to wave to her, and she's like in the zone. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, bye.
Again, not you, Kaitlyn. It's all
I know,
me.
It's okay. It's so funny though. I love it. It's awesome.
She's trained to be a machine, and to get out there.
Like, I'm getting this done.
She's gonna run you over. You better watch out. Well, that's amazing. Well, cheers to many more solo time trials in Forest Park, and we're just so grateful and appreciative of your support in Spewak Training and working with Coach Kaitlyn. It's been just an absolute blast having you part of our community, and we can't wait to cheer you on and everything forward. So if there's a way that people can kind of follow your journey after this, do you participate in social media or anything that you would lead them to?
Yeah, I have an Instagram page, emshor214, so you can find me there. I don't post a whole lot, but when I do, it's usually running content. So
Well, the good thing is a lot of people who are probably listening to this podcast are fellow Spewak runners that are probably just, immersing themselves in running, on social media. So
all the running content,
our target market. And you can find Coach Kaitlyn on our website. She's got her information there, and we'll tag her in this video on social media as I start to release the podcast out to our world. And just super pumped about being able to share more stories like this. Emily is just such a great example of when you put your mind to something and then you dedicate yourself to the process, you can find success. And I think the most important thing to take away from Emily's success is the word patience, which is a very difficult thing for everyone. Patience in recovery, patience in the process, patience in the actual race itself. She's mastered the word patience. So we will lead that with her example moving forward. So thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. This was a really fun one with Emily and Coach Donahue. They both just have so much positive energy, and it's just so great to hear from both of them. And I just love when these athletes have that chance to share this story. You know, Emily said this was her first time ever being on a podcast, which is really cool for me, because this is why we started this podcast, to be able to share the stories of these athletes who have great success stories in the sport, and really just being able to show their passion. And the word I ended with today was patience. Emily's success has been because of her patience. Passion, patience, discipline, consistency, all the above. So thank you to Emily for being willing to share her story, and Coach Donahue for jumping on. That was just so much fun. We have some races coming up. So the Chain of Rocks 6K, which is coming up on March 22nd, benefiting the Jackie Joyner Kersey Foundation. This is an awesome event put on by our sister organization, Spewak Racing. We invite all the different running clubs in St. Louis out for this one, and I think that you guys will really enjoy it. 6K in honor of Route 66, and we run along the historic Route 66 route that features the Chain of Rocks Bridge. And then our Market Mile is going to be here before we know it, as well as the Dogwood Run. The Dogwood Run being May 23rd and the Market Mile August 9th. So more information on both of those websites, Spewak Training. As always, if you're interested in coaching with Spewak Training, we have openings with all of our coaches for this coming year. And if you just want an opportunity to discuss your running goals and hearing more about what we do, feel free to reach out. Contact at spewaktraining.com or plug us on social media. You can hit me up through DMs, whatever's easiest for you. But we would love the opportunity to share more about our program and how we can help you succeed, just like the story we had here with Emily and Coach Donahue. And as always, if you're willing, please do review this episode and help share this with any friends and family you think, or just people in your network that you think would be inspired by the episode. Just being able to get this out to more people so that we can hopefully motivate more people with their running, and really highlight and expose the athletes that are working with them. So as always, thanks so much for being a part of the journey, and we are looking forward to releasing this episode and giving you more Spewak Training content coming up.